it's even as a kid, I was like, I really want to be the one that make the games that I really like. Lots of desktops and sweaty teenage boys seated in there. Yeah, I think at least for me, it's important, but I also don't think in like you have to represent every single race or gender. As long as the game itself has like an appropriate setting for it, why not, right? So if you like randomly added in someone like me in medieval Europe, I don't know what I'm doing there. I guess it really boils down to like being quite authentic, right, with your characters in the game. Does it fit in with the game that you're trying to make? If yes, cool. If it doesn't fit in, then let's kind of reconsider why we're doing this. Is it to like fulfill like an arbitrary checklist of have I gotten like all the colors represented? Which is kind of weird. Having like for the first time being awoken up in the game or something, I think, and then seeing the NPC like talk to me in my essentially my mother tongue, I was like, huh, I know that. Wait a minute, that's something I know.
Hi, I'm Sarthak from Trigger 2. You're watching Spawn Point, and today I'm joined by Yasmin Yusoff from Deep Silver FISHLABs. How are you?
Hi, uh, nice to see you again, actually.
Yeah. So we've been talking for the past half an hour. we
Yep.
were
Yep.
supposed to start this half an hour ago, but we just hit record now. So yeah, she just said she's nice to see you again, but yeah, she's really fine. I can vouch for that. And also, for the 8 viewers who watch me all the time, welcome to the new setup. I moved across the rooms, but I'm going to call this my new studio and pretend that it's not my parents' extra room. And yeah, well, welcome to my new studio. It's got this cool paint that's white.
Nice white background.
Yeah, nice background. It's got this mic stand. We didn't have a mic back before, and I've also got a couch here. I was sitting on a chair, and you had to sit up really tight, and now you can lean back. Okay, so enough about me and my setup. Jasmine, can you tell us a bit about yourself and how you got into the gaming industry?
Hi, my name is Yasmin, and I've been in the game industry for maybe close to about 3 years combined. But yeah, I'm born and raised in Singapore. I didn't do very well like in secondary school because I wasn't really like interested in like most of like the subjects, especially math, which I will get to. Math is still important, kids. It's really important.
Everyone,
I didn't do.
All of my 8 viewers really sympathize with you, me included.
Yeah, math it seems like unimportant, but it's really important. But yeah, try to get good at it because it'll be really useful. But yeah, I just naturally didn't do well in things that I wasn't really interested in, but I did well in things like creative writing, art, and stuff like that. So yeah, the school leaving exams didn't really do any mercy for me. Did kind of badly, but I was like, yeah, I wasn't really interested anyway. I'll do an art school because I was good at that time. So I applied for an art school in Singapore and I got in pretty easily, you know. And then, yeah, I did really well because I enjoyed the modules at least and the assignments that was given. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'll pause there for a bit and say that like before I got to the art school, I was already kind of aiming for doing a game design like course. At that time, at that year at least, game design was still kind of like a new and upcoming thing. It wasn't as popular as it is right now for young people to get into. But you know, it's even as a kid, I was like, I really want to be the one that make the games that I really liked growing up. I just didn't know the term for it back then until like, you know, I started like finishing school and like suddenly people are kind of advertising this. Being in the game industry, the mobile games industry is really like working its way up, and like, oh yeah, that's cool. And I was really interested in it. So I was like, finally, there's like a term for it, right? But you know, going back to the bad math thing, yeah. That was one of the criteria to enter like the game design course in polytechnics. So I was like, yeah, that can't get in, but I can get in some other way. So I decided to get good at animation, which is like a second passion of mine back then. So I did that in art school, and I did, okay, pretty well. Won some award here and there. I think that's quite important to really enjoy what you're doing, right? And then towards the end of my animation course, my diploma, I was like, I really want to get back into the game design industry, at least, or game industry, because I kind of got sick of creating animation frames for like 24 pages for 1 second or something like that. So hundreds of pages for like a little animation of like some pillow sack jumping around is not that great. I immediately applied to a game design university in London. Telling my parents that I wanted to move to another country for a game design course. Not a fun talk we had, but I'm quite blessed that they gave me their blessings and tuition money. Then I got to the UK and game design course for 3 years. Probably one of the most best years of my life. Very interesting course, very fun assignments, very awesome people. Yeah, and when I graduated, I got offered an internship at like an indie game studio in Liverpool, the UK. Really enjoyed it. I was like, definitely love the game industry. And the problem was that at that time, UK was going through some problems with certain things going on with the immigration stuff, aka Brexit. It was kind of causing a lot of strain in terms of visas, right? And being a fresh grad in the games industry, which is notoriously like, we don't get paid amazing amounts, right? So having to fulfill the salary criteria was a bit of a hassle. Yeah. And so it didn't go too well because everyone was kind of iffy about paying a fresh grad like that much for the salary thing, which I don't blame them, honestly. So I went back home to like Singapore and worked for a bit as like a content designer and a UI designer. And then fast forward a little bit, I got an opportunity through people I knew, and thankfully passed the test and interviews and everything. And here I am back in Europe, in Germany. Yeah. And being a level designer. Yeah.
Can you tell us which games you're working on right now?
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit about it without
First
giving
developer.
away too.
So 8 people who watch me regularly, we have the first developer who's going to tell us what they're working on right now.
Okay, I'm working on Chorus, which is a space, sci-fi space shooting game, action shooting game. You can show like a nice little trailer here at some point. I won't really talk too much about it because I'm not trained to be a marketing person.
So but the trailer rolls after she finishes her sentence.
Choo-choo. It's a really cool game. If you like space, you like space stuff, you like flying planes, hopefully. It's really cool. I don't want to really talk that much about it because, as you can tell, I'm not very great at promoting a game, but fun
just
game
one
made
question.
by awesome people. Yep.
Just one question. So Microsoft Flight Simulator, a game about planes, really burned is the system of a lot of users. I did not install it because I did not want to burn down my house. Is the game you're working on going to do something similar, or is it going to be more merciful?
Oh, it's definitely going to be more merciful. I mean, it's not flying, like not plane flying on space or on flight simulator levels, but it's an action game essentially. But yeah, it'll be merciful. I hopefully, I don't know. I mean, we've talked about your laptop, Rick, and I wouldn't put too much hope in that. But
the thing is, when you're talking to game developers, they've got like all the new stuff, RTX 3080 kind of things, and when they say it's going to be merciful, they mean merciful like RTX 2060. Most of the people out here are some people who are rocking GTX 1050 kind of things. So there's like a perspective gap that people like me fill up.
Don't worry. The game runs on the older Xbox.
The
That means
360?
it'll run. Not that. It's the
Okay.
Oh God.
Sorry.
It runs on the one before the current one, like the next gen one. Yeah.
It works on Xbox One.
Yeah, that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not. You can tell I'm not really an Xbox girl, but yeah.
I had an Xbox 360. It gave me the red ring of death.
Yeah.
And my heart broke. You know, a friend of mine had told me about his breakup, and this one,
Yeah.
what happened with me sounded worse than his.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Oh, it's the red ring of death. Yeah. Maybe you could have gotten a PlayStation. Yeah.
I'm waiting for the PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
We've got scalpers here who are selling it for. Okay, so with the taxes in place,
yeah,
PlayStation 5 is already very expensive as compared to the US here in India.
Yeah.
But then we've got scalpers who are charging all the way more. So I'm just gonna hold off for now.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get a Nintendo Switch Lite in the meantime. And then when it's on the shelves and I can check it out, then I'll get a PS5.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, the scalpers are just like ruining everything, aren't they? Yeah. Just like there's a chip shortage and there's like scalpers. Not a great combination. But meanwhile, there's the Switch. The Switch is great. Highly recommend.
I'll buy it. It's on my list, but I haven't got it yet. Okay, so coming back, I heard whispers from the sports that you were really into arcades growing up.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite game growing up, and what was your experience with arcades in general growing up at the time when you did grow up?
Yeah, I really love like arcades and LAN cafes growing up actually. So I mean basically it's like being an only child. My parents really wanted to know where I was at all times. So before when we didn't have anyone to like watching me at home, my mom used to bring me over to the building where she worked, right? And it's like a shopping mall essentially, and she worked in like one of the units over there. And in one of the floors, there was like a LAN shop, I don't know whether like in every country nowadays there is still a LAN shop. I think they kind of died out because everyone kind of just has their own gaming rigs at home now. But we used to have it like a little unit with lots of desktops over there, lots of desktops, cool gaming rigs for that time. Lots of desktops and sweaty teenage boys seated in there. Yeah. So my mom would used to give me a few dollars to spend time in there while she works. So I'd be occupied and instead of whining about her finishing job quickly or something like that. So yeah, I used to spend a lot of my times in like LAN shops like those, playing games like Diablo 2, Counter-Strike 1.6, I think back then, like they're the old one. I didn't know what I was doing most of the time, but I enjoyed it. In Diablo 2 as well, like the accounts were free for all, so I played some random guys, really overpowered character, and I think I died at some point. Hopefully it wasn't a permadeath thing, but yeah, it was fun. And LAN shops and arcades were really popular in Singapore as well. Lots of rhythm games. I think arcades in Singapore still a thing with rhythm games. We also have. I love playing House of the Dead, the one where you shoot zombies a lot. I played lots of that, and lots of racing games as well. So yeah, they were quite a big part of my childhood, being stuffed into there because I was waiting for my mom to finish work or something like that. But yeah, it was good times.
So, do you think playing all those arcade games directed you into the game industry?
The arcades games specifically, probably not. I mean, I really enjoy like playing them, like being in a LAN shop and stuff. But I don't think they were exactly like my sort of games. But I enjoyed playing them. But I think the ones that directed me towards game development in general were the other favorite games I played growing up. Like my PS1 was mainly my best friend back then. Used to play a lot of the PS1 growing up. Before I even had access to, I didn't have access to a computer for myself till much later when I grew up a bit more. But yeah, PS1, one of the best systems ever, I guess.
So you're from the PS1 era.
Yeah, I know lots of people were in like the Nintendo like N64 era or something like that, but I was definitely a PS1 gal. Yeah.
I don't remember that system.
You're so young.
It got discontinued before I was born.
Were you in the PS2 era?
Okay, so PS2 came out in 2002 or 3, I guess.
Right.
Right.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was in actually the PS3 era, but
Oh
I've
my
had
God.
I have played on PS2s, you know.
All right.
You
Yeah.
can get access to one generation before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
have played at
Definitely.
PS2. I never owned one. Some of my
Hmm.
friends had it. So,
Hmm.
we go to their place and just play there.
Yeah. Yeah, the PS2 was great as well, but I guess it's for me it's most like childhood bias of like PS1s being like awesome. Yeah, my favorite games from the PS1 were like Final Fantasy 7, like the original ones, like the little Lego characters. Yeah, Final Fantasy 7 and probably kind of matched up with 8 and 9 afterwards. I was very into Japanese role-playing games when I was younger. I also really enjoyed Parasite Eve, if you've ever heard of it. I think it kind of like died down a bit, but it was like a survival horror shooter game. I don't know whether I'm describing it well, but I mean, the trailers will probably come here, gameplay things probably come here, but
I'll put it right here or here or
yeah,
somewhere here.
okay. Yeah, it's very cool, badass female protagonist. She shoots guns a lot. I think she's also a police officer. She's so cool. Yeah, Parasite Eve was great. And Chrono Cross, which is another JRPG that was quite underrated, I think. But it had graphics for that time was really nice. But I think if you see the graphics now, it's just like, oh, there's no big deal about it. But this was like on the PS1, and compared to like Final Fantasy 7, I think it's worlds apart. Yeah, those games really inspired me to, I guess they inspired me in like, I really enjoyed playing them. I spent so much time playing them to a point where my mom was telling me to like get a life at some point. But I played them so much, and I kind of clicked one day that I was like, why do I enjoy these so much? This is all I just want to do. And obviously I can't play video games forever, right? And I kind of like had like a idea in my head that yeah, I guess I'll be the person that makes design these games in the future. Yeah, but I didn't know what it was called that time. So yeah, now I know. Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned you playing Parasite Evil and you had a badass female protagonist.
Yeah.
So can you tell me really what is the importance of having representation in video games?
I think at least for me, it's important, but I also don't think in like you have to represent every single race or gender. As long as the game itself has like an appropriate setting for it, why not, right? So in Parasite Eve, you're playing like a police officer, but it's set in like a normal city. I forgot which country it's set in actually, but yeah, she's just a normal police officer, and her being female didn't really necessarily it's important or not, but it sure helped adding to like the badassery, right? It's cool. Like as I guess back then as well, like Japanese games really liked having strong pretty female leads. So yeah. It's like reminiscent of how Resident Evil the movies also had the actress's name's Mila. Yeah, she's very cool. Similar concept, cool guns, blonde.
I
Yeah,
think Lara Croft
very
was very similar as well.
exactly. Yeah, they really enjoyed having the strong female protagonist. That is very cool. I quite like it. Whether they are cast because they are like, I mean, whether these characters are cast because they were like attractive females is another thing to cater towards dudes. I don't know, but it was nice having like a female lead. But I mean, going back to that point, I feel like you know as long as the game setting like it makes sense to have a certain representation there. Yeah, that's fine because yeah, it makes sense, right? What I'm like thinking of is that if you're setting your game in like a periodic era, like let's say medieval times in Europe, it would make sense just having a fully white cast in certain location at least. If you like randomly added in someone like me in medieval Europe. I don't know what I'm doing there, but it obviously feels like you're pandering to me or something. But maybe I just took a long boat trip and I ended up there or something. But yeah, it's like, yeah, I think, yeah, if you're doing like a periodic game, sure, yeah, everyone's of a certain color, because it's like you have to be kind of accurate. It's a game, but if you kind of strive for historical accuracy, or you kind of want to be immersed in like the story, yeah, things have to look a certain way. I guess it really boils down to like being quite authentic, right, with your characters in the game. Does it fit in with the game that you're trying to make? If yes, cool. If it doesn't fit in, then let's kind of reconsider why we're doing this. Is it to like fulfill like an arbitrary checklist of have I gotten like all the colors represented? Which is kind of weird, but sometimes it do feel like that. Yeah, as long as it fits in, like that is my take on it. Like it's I think I'll reference something kind of weird, but it's kind of like cooking, right? So you're cooking a dish. You want to have an authentic dish. You would ask the people that are from that where the food is originally made from, like the original creators of the dish. Let's say if you were to ask me for like a Malay dish, although I'm not a good chef, I probably have a good idea of what the food tastes like and how like it'll taste like, the ingredients and stuff like that. You would ask someone like that. You go straight to the source. Instead of just just trying to emulate things, if you're going for authenticity, you would have people of various backgrounds in your studio, right? So you would have like straight up personal experiences of like your fellow developers that can say, yes, I grew up and I knew this happened, or I can say that this happened to me, my stories and stuff like that. Whereas sometimes it just feels that some games just add in a character of like a different race just to have that checklist ticked off, where it feels like they're just trying to, I don't know how to explain it. They're just kind of doing it for
I get it from like a player's perspective. Yeah. So as I was saying, without any weird cuts here, that authentic representation can be really felt in video games. When there's a character that really belongs there, you feel it. And when there's a character that's just inserted there, you feel it again. And I think in stuff like fantasy worlds, you can't really see the what fits or what's not. It's all about the creativity of the writer or the director. But as you said, if you're doing like a period drama thing, I think the best game that I can guess right now is a game by 4 Horse Studios. I don't remember the name.
Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Yeah, Kingdom Come Deliverance.
It's such a good game as well.
Yeah. So I originally found them on Kickstarter when their project was fully funded. So I've been watching their videos continuously since then. Haven't played it, but have been watching all the videos, and that looks really authentic. Even though there's no representation, I don't think it's not a deal breaker for me. I don't think so. Whatever they're representing, it's not different colors or different castes or different races. What they're representing is through authenticity of that period. And I think they really nailed down that part.
Yeah, exactly. Especially since they are based in that side of Europe. I mean, back then it would be so hard to find someone of like a different color back then, right? And they still got some flack back then for like only having like white people, which is kind of a strange thing to bring up. It's like, I think us people of color would have zero things against it. It's like, oh cool, it's that place in Europe. Yeah. But somehow it is a thing about, especially amongst the West.
There's always a journalist. I'm not in the West. In a sort of, I'm not gonna name the publications, but in a sort of publication, and you have a great game, and then they come out, why don't they have representation? And gamers are like, even gamers like us are, it's a great game. We are not bothered by it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, yeah, exactly. Like that's the main thing. It just feels like sometimes people are bothered by it for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just so weird. But yeah, I mean, let's not go too deep into it. But it is generally a thing I notice, especially amongst like Western publications. I do notice. Whereas I think in Asia we don't really care that much about I think a prime example is Japanese games actually. Japanese games don't really care about like the cast of their characters fulfilling these checklists of anything. They kind of just focus on the game itself, which is quite interesting. Yeah. I mean, yeah, but
you have to see
yeah.
that. Well, that is also a good perspective. We have to see that, Asians have been always contained in Asia, but when the Europeans conquered the whole world, basically. And then, all the Asian and the Latin Americans and everyone thought, oh, let's go back to Europe. And then that became a melting pot of cultures that gave us the beautiful cities that they are today and the beautiful games that they're making. So I think in the modern day, it makes much sense.
Yeah, definitely. Whereas I think lots of Asia is still quite homogenous, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Everyone's just amongst other Asians. So we're just like, oh, it's not a big deal. But yeah, for the West, definitely it's more a thing because everyone's kind of mixed up now. So yeah. I mean, so at that point, I think, having a more diverse staff in the studio is definitely going to help provide much more like authentic perspective in the games we're going to make rather than just, this checklist I keep bringing up. But yeah, there's definitely going to bring a better perspective. So I'd rather prefer having like my food dish served to me very well, like a good dish served to me very well, rather than them telling me, oh, it has all these ingredients that you might like. But I'd rather just have a very good dish, I focus on making this dish really good rather than trying to cater to everyone's specific taste, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. So as I know, you've worked in 3 different countries, right? So can you tell me about the diversity perspective of all those countries and how did it affect your job, your mindset, and basically everything about that?
Yeah.
Or as much, not everything.
Yeah. I think I can only compare Singapore against Germany and the UK, which I will kind of refer to as like Europe for now, just to simplify it, because I think there's a bit more similarities. But I find that at least in Europe, there is in the environment, the formal environments, there is much more of a pride, emphasis in more diverse like hires. So they kind of make it a point to, because they would have surveys every year about like the demographics of the game industry, right? They would like make it a point to kind of increase like this, like having more females or having more person of color and stuff like that. I think, the emphasis on the hiring is definitely a bit different compared to like Asia, at least Singapore in general. I think Singapore doesn't really care too much about like who they hire. I guess, I mean, just to boil it down, like summarize it, I feel that Asia is much more concerned with the making the product rather than who is making the product. You know what I mean? So yeah, I guess, yeah. Whereas it's good that the West like cares more about who is making the product instead. I think that's a good difference there compared to like.
So which mindset do you prefer?
Oh, preferring is another thing. I definitely prefer the West. That's why I'm in the West. Yeah. I definitely like it when they care more about the employees, which is kind of going to bite me in the butt next time if I'm going to find a job in Asia again. Don't look at this. I love you, Asia. You have the best food. The Western working environment is definitely like very, very good. Yeah.
So that was about the formal environment. Is the informal environment of, having different people of different color and different genders equally welcoming? Yeah,
I think definitely the informal environment, I've never, at least personally for me, I've never experienced like outright discrimination or anything. But yeah, everyone's just, I think the game industry is very welcoming in general. Like it's always cool to, see another like girl around or like having more people of color. Yeah, I think it's just, at least for me, I can't really say that much because for me at least, I've never really had bad experiences. Yeah. I've been quite lucky, at least if there are people out there that do have bad experiences with either of these like things. But yes, I was quite lucky, and everything has been really great so far. Yeah.
Okay, so now we'll be moving from like the developer side to the actual game. In your opinion, what's like the best way to add representation in video games without making it feel forced? Like we talked about how authentic representation versus checklist representation.
Yeah.
So what's the best way?
I guess the best way is to like immerse the players and the environment, right? Where it makes sense, like immerse it when it makes sense. Surround the players with the people, the character, like the NPCs, the location or the imagery in the game, or even the language, right? So instead of having like that one party member that just happens to be a person of color, just that one party member, you are brought into a scenario where you actually mingle with their, the world, the culture, right? So yeah, we kind of talked about Far Cry, didn't we? Yeah, I think Far Cry 3 at least. I didn't play all the Far Cries, but I really like Far Cry 3. And I think they did a really good job back then of including the Rakyat race, at least for me personally, that is. The first time I've seen someone represent, like a company represent the Asians like me, like for the Malays or the Indonesians. So the Rakyat in Far Cry 3 spoke the native Bahasa in the game. So upon meeting the people for the first time, they actually speak the language, which is quite cool because it's also not a very common language at all, because lots of video games, they kind of interpret Asians as just either like Chinese, Japanese, or Koreans, right? You don't really see much of the other races much. So having like for the first time being awoken up in the game or something, I think, and then seeing the NPC like talk to me in my essentially my mother tongue, I was like, I know that. Wait a minute, that's something I know. That was kind of cool. But
this is Jason, the one I've been telling you about.
Hi.
Did they teach you to speak without permission in America?
No, I learned that in France.
Senapang ke bawah.
I mean, it draws in some weird quirks as well. Like they would say Selamat tengah hari, which means good middle of the day, or like good afternoon, but it's kind of like middle of the day literally, but in the background it's clearly nighttime. So that was like a weird quirk. And then they would say Senapang ke bawah, which means put your guns down, something like that, but they just put the guns to like their side, and I was like, at least they tried, right? But this is like kind of cool anyway, right? I mean, other than that, their accents were all over the place as well. Like their accents were definitely not like local. Like they were definitely not like local people, but the languages used at least were something familiar, and that's better than nothing, right? And it was kind of cool. I think Far Cry has done that consistently, bringing like the very unique takes on like the different worlds, right? With the other games, I've not played all of the Far Cry games, but yeah, even the upcoming Far Cry 6. Really cool.
Yeah,
it looks really cool. I think it's focused on the Cuban culture. Yeah, it's really cool. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I think those games are like definitely examples of how to immerse the players in like definitely a culturally diverse environment without it just feeling like I have an NPC, a party member that is different, which is nice. I mean, say what you want about the game, but Cyberpunk did good on that as well. I think that they had, the game itself, let's not talk about that because I still kind of have a soft spot for the game. I like it. I had a computer that could run it, so thankfully.
You're the lucky ones.
Yeah, I'm always one of the lucky ones, not getting that much bugs. But yeah, even Cyberpunk did have a very diverse cast, and even the side content, some of the side content with the side cast, actually delved into their culture growing up. Like we have this character. I mean, I'm not gonna say too much things unless people are gonna like see this and like, oh, I've never played Cyberpunk, spoilers. But one of the character dies.
You can just say it. I'll just put a marker that there are spoilers from this point to this point, so you can speak freely.
Yeah, I don't know whether I'm gonna like explain it like properly as well, but one of the characters dies and his funeral procession was very to their culture. So you would have to go through like a whole thing that is very representative of their culture. So it's nice even doing that because it's not just like, oh, he died and he's just gonna be like looked over like that. He actually still gets expanded on his death, where you can explore like the culture that he was raised up in. And as far as I know, it like the setting was not too game-like as well. It definitely felt real. So it was a nice, yeah, it wasn't like a false representation on all, at least that bit. It definitely felt very authentic. So I quite like that bit. Um, yeah, as long as the setting aligns with the characters you're trying to bring in, it'll be way better than like, let's say, just trying to put in a random Caucasian man in Ghost of Tsushima or something like that, right? So as long as it makes sense, especially in games like that sci-fi, I think sci-fi and futuristic games have it kind of easier because obviously the world will be very globalized by then. So you'll naturally have lots of like diverse characters. But yeah, as long as it fits in, yeah, that's a good way to like try and do lots of representation, right? Yeah.
So while I was not one of the lucky ones to play Cyberpunk,
Yeah.
I did have a go at Far Cry 4, which was based in like
Right.
the Nepalese and Indian Himalayan region. So, their language is pretty similar to what they speak in the middle part or the north middle part. So you just like you said that, hey, I know that language.
Yeah.
So in the intro, the prologue of the game, there were some languages that were very local, and I was like, hey, I know that language.
Yeah. That's familiar.
Yeah, I can speak it. I can understand it. I cannot read it because that's like another, what do you call it? Another script.
It's like a dialect, right? A different dialect.
Yeah, a
but they're
different dialect.
familiar. Yeah.
Plus all the region that really felt authentic. So I've been to the Himalayas and all the cities, not all, a lot of the cities there, and it really felt authentic. So Ubisoft does a really great job, especially the Far Cry series. Ubisoft, I love you. Please send me PR copies. I'm still waiting.
Yeah, send him some. Yeah.
I'm still waiting. So they're just sending PR copies to my publishers, but not me directly. So yeah, Ubisoft, I love you. Show your boy some love, bro.
Yes, send it to him. Yeah, he's shown his love.
Reciprocate that love.
Maybe a copy for me as well. But yeah, I think Yusoff, good job. Yeah.
Yeah, even in while the Far Cry series is the one that takes all the representation and does it really well, even the Assassin's Creed series does it really authentically. Yeah, definitely.
Like, yeah, I remember like seeing like videos that they've done the architecture very accurate as well, right? The environments are really like well done and like accurate. So that's like another way to just like, have full immersion rather than forcing it in. They definitely included it as part of like an enhancement to the game, right? Rather than like a forced addition. But yeah.
I was actually watching one of the videos on Assassin's Creed Origins, and it said that they made a room in the pyramids that was not discovered by the time that game came out, and after it came out, the room was discovered, and it was accurate to exactly what they made. And then there were a lot of conspiracy theories, and I'm a part of that theorist groups as well. That Ubisoft, Abstergo, they have like internal connections. Maybe Abstergo is not just fictional. So yeah, Ubisoft, if this thing is gonna ignore or hinder my PR copies, this is just for fun. This does not mean anything.
This is just for fun. Yeah.
But if you're
Tell us what you know.
If you're a conspiracy theorist, you can find my email easily on the web.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're here on the fun part. You've played a lot of games. You still play a lot of games. So if you could direct a game from start to finish without any hindrances, financial or creative, what would that game look like?
Oh man. I'd immediately think of like what would be the most costly game, right? So if we're not talking about finances, what would be the most costly game? I grew up playing lots of MMORPGs actually. So if you think games like Maple Story and like random like free-to-play 3D MMORPGs back then. Yeah, those were very fun. Now they kind of like died off a bit. because people are getting more demanding on what they want in MMORPGs. So if there was no financial limit, I would love the MMORPG to end all MMORPGs. That it's like a mix of, World of Warcraft, Guild Wars 2, like WildStar, just big worlds, free to play, imported free to play. See, because we're not talking about finances anymore, right? So the perfect MMORPG is free to play. And World of Warcraft combined with Guild Wars 2, WildStar, having large server battles, player versus player battles, players making an impact on economy. So players be able to farm, do their little side jobs and sell stuff, and just having all the normal fantasy settings as well. I think that would be awesome. But yeah, I immediately thought of what's the most expensive to make and upkeep. Definitely an MMORPG that is so high quality but also free. Yeah, that's not realistic at all. But I love the idea of it.
Yeah, I think I love the idea too. That one of the best and the biggest MMORPGs will be built on the grave of a millionaire who left without any heirs.
Yeah, and
if you could give me a plan to monetize it. So I've been talking to devs, and some of them said that, if you could have $1 billion and make this game, then you could make £2 billion out of it. And I said, if I had £1 billion, I'd throw it on you to make that game. But now that you have kind of mentioned what kind of game you're planning to make, if you have unlimited financial restrictions, I don't think I'm throwing my money at you.
Yeah, I mean, they say unlimited, right? Yeah, it's a bad investment. But if you could make anything, just anything. I mean, essentially what I'm describing is it's
a dream.
Wow. Yeah, it's a dream. It's a dream that will never happen. But I mean, you could always dream. Just imagine a better place with World of Warcraft without subscription fees and World of Warcraft on steroids. Yeah.
I've actually never played World of Warcraft because I was like, who's going to pay the subscription fees? You can, you can just save the subscription fees of a couple of months and then buy a full-blown AAA RPG. So I just go with that.
That's why I didn't play World of Warcraft that much. I'm not one of those WoW nerds. I'm not. But I did play it quite a bit, very, very much later on after it's when it first came out. I played it in university actually, and I got really hooked onto it. And then I realized, my bank account is getting a dent from everything. And I was still a student back then. And even till now, even being employed, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And also because it's subscription based, right? You kind of are forced to make use of that 30 days. And being employed, realistically, you only have 2 free days, a week, entirely free days. So I don't know, how worth it is, money-wise. But I still love you, Blizzard.
It's not.
It's not. Bring back free to play MMORPGs. Yeah.
Yeah. Or just buy some games on Steam. The Steam sale's going on. It's pretty wild right now. I just bought one game that was on my wish list for a very long time. And I shut down my eyes and brain to all the other games that were so luring and on sale. I was like, nope, I'm not gonna buy it. I don't have the time. I'm not gonna play it. I just bought one game and that's all.
Nice. That's the right mentality to go about it. I just cave in, but I think I've gotten to a point with my Steam library being quite thick. So my Steam library has a lot of games now. And nowadays it's just more there's a Steam sale, maybe stuff on my wish list, but normally the stuff on my wish list is not out yet. So it's just a matter of waiting for that one game I've been waiting for a long time to appear, and then I'll buy it. But yeah, my Steam account is too full. I'd rather be happier not being excited for new games anymore because there's way too many games I haven't finished yet. So yeah.
Actually, if you're watching 8 people who watch me regularly, if you want free games, you can always enter the PR industry. And I'm looking for people to join me at Trigger 2 Entertainment. So yeah, ring me up.
Yeah. Get those PR codes.
Yeah, I self-advertise myself as well.
It's fine. We appreciate it.
Actually, I'm looking for people to, do my social media management. So if you're interested, you can hit me up on my email with your portfolio and we'll be happy to talk. Yeah, I think this is just going out to 8 people, but fine.
Some guy might be a really like big tweeter.
Yeah.
Ah.
So, okay, the last formal question of the day.
Mhm.
So you've been through a couple of education steps, right? You've been to uni, you've been to animation course, and maybe something else as well. So how important do you think is formal education to enter the video game industry? And what's your best tip for youngsters to make their way to the video game industry?
Yeah, I guess I think it comes in steps, right? I think the first step is to like ask yourself, do you just really enjoy playing games or do you enjoy making them? Because like I've seen lots of people lose their fire for game development in like uni because they realize like halfway that like, I don't really enjoy making stuff, but I enjoy playing it. And I think that's like a really big like difference to make. Like it's not for everyone. Like generally, like you can love playing games. Like it's like you can like eating, but not everyone loves to cook, you know? Yeah. So yeah, I think making that difference like early on is kind of good. But if not, you can just, find the discipline you're interested in. That's like the game development industry is like massive. Like there's so many roles, like even in being in social media, right? That there is like a place for it in game industry as well. Yeah. There's only the strongest of people have to deal with the gamer trolls. So yeah, there's so many roles you could do. I recommend downloading either Unreal Engine or Unity. There's lots of tutorials online about it and giving it a try, like hands-on experience like outweighs like almost everything. A degree definitely helps when you want to apply for jobs. Yeah, a degree helps. But in the end, your portfolio really outshines a degree. It's kind of like you can have a degree, but if your portfolio is not really, it's like if you don't really have a portfolio after having a degree, whoever you're gonna apply to is not really gonna see your worth anyway. But if let's say you decide not to have a degree, your portfolio better compensate for it. And if you spent all the time that someone else would be studying for a degree and you made your portfolio really like nice, I think it'll definitely like even it out, because there are people that complete like university courses and have like nothing to show for in their portfolio because they didn't really spend time on like finishing that game demo, right? So yeah, it's either gonna be a balance or not. But yeah, I mean, just summarizing it, it's like you can get a degree, but it's not everything. It's a nice base. It's basically like a cushion, right? To just say I've completed these 3 or 4 years, but in the end they'll still ask for your portfolio link, and it has to be good anyway. Because nowadays, almost lots of people that are applying for the game industry will have degrees in whatever disciplines. They'll look at what you can offer. So yeah. And I guess the last thing I'd probably say is that it's not gonna be an easy ride either way. Like it's gonna be difficult either finding your first job or feeling like you're not paid enough. But if your heart's in it, it'll all be worth it in the end. And when you finally finish that game, you'll be that feeling you can't really describe it. When you finally finish your game, you can be like, yeah, we've made this. So yeah, it's worth it. Yeah.
So a good balance between experience and education, or if you don't have education, your experience better outshine everyone else.
Yeah, the portfolio is the big boy. Yeah.
Okay, so now we've reached the end of questions. That was all from me tonight. Do you have any closing comments?
Support indie games. There's lots of hidden gems out there. Yeah. And yeah.
Any shout out to 8 people who are watching this?
Oh,
for indie games.
Indie games. Oh, I mean, I can like make my recommendations right now. I mean, if we start with not indie games, but still kind of in the good games, I recommend people playing Prey from 2017. It's by Arcane Studios and it's very underrated. That's my favorite game and I'm biased. But other than that, indie games, there is something called Chicory that I played recently. Chicory is very cute. It's a coloring game. I know it sounds like a kid's game, but I swear it's not. It's especially for creators. I think for creators, whoever's like watching this that is like an artist or just anyone in like the creative field, you'll definitely feel it because it's a game made by creators for creators. It's like they'll touch on like very adult topics, I guess, about feeling like you're not good enough or like, imposter syndrome, etc. But presented in a very cute like kids fashion. But other indie games coming up, I like there's this a game made by a Tamil developer. It's called Venba. I don't know if you heard about it, but it's like a narrative cooking game. It's strange, but it's so cute, very beautiful. Probably show the trailer here right now. It's so cute.
It's hair. Krill is hair.
And it's something very you don't see it very often, but you can tell there's lots of heart into it. So yeah, play indie games. It's really good. Don't only consume AAA, please. There's so much. There's a bigger world out there for lots of games with a bit more like heartfelt, smaller teams into it. Yeah.
Okay. All right, everyone. That was Yasmin Yusoff on Spawn Point. As she said, buy indie games. If you don't have the money, come work for me, and maybe we can get PR titles together. And yeah, that's it. Have a good night. Bye.